welcome to TV Toastmasters. I'll be your host today, Mr. Style Versatile. I'd like to welcome you to tune in whenever you get the chance. First up, I have a gentleman who I was able to attend the first club here in Portland from Babble-On. His name is PJ, and I'll share with you what he's done thus far. He's spent most of his professional life communicating with others, ranging from one-on-one sales to hosting seminars up to 300 people in the audience. Along the way, he discovered Toastmasters and decided to share the program with his LGBTQ friends in Metropolitan Community Church by starting Babble-On Toastmasters Club. They have moved several times since then, but are still going strong. And the community gets together at 4 p.m. on Sundays here at the Evergreen Center. PJ Kleffner has his BS, Bachelor of Science, in Business and Management from Millhurst University and retired last year after 40 years in the high-tech industry. Congratulations, PJ. He likes to travel and lives in Beaverton with his husband, Marvin. PJ, welcome to TV Toastmasters.
That's my pleasure.
Great.
Yes.
So I want to just let the audience get to know, how did Babble-On get started? Because it says here 2004, is that right?
Yes.
What's the story behind the beginnings, if you will?
Okay. I joined Toastmasters at Tektronix out in Beaverton, the Silicon Forest Club, in the October of 2001. I soon realized the advantages of the program and wanted to share it with my friends at the primarily LGBT church, Metropolitan Community Church. So I approached the pastor and decided to start the club there. We did, and as you said, been going strong ever since. We have had to move a few times because of scheduling conflicts and changes, but let's see, we've met in 4 churches, 2 restaurants, a pub, and the public library occasionally since
Really?
then. Yes.
All
And a
those
PCC
places?
classroom.
And PCC,
Yes.
Portland Community College,
Yes.
which is a great local place for space for learning, education. Now, what struck to you about Toastmasters that made you decide to do such a thing with a group?
Well, the interesting thing, you mentioned that I spent most of my career in high-tech communicating with other people. My job changed after a major reorganization, so I was no longer doing seminars. I actually went to Toastmasters looking for an audience. I said, ooh, I saw a flyer on the bulletin board, and I said, ooh, I bet I can talk to people there. Well, of course, the first thing I learned was that you do more listening than talking, but I was hooked from day one. I visited the club one day there, and they signed me up the following week, and the rest is history. Never looked back.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That sounds like you took the idea and ran with it.
Yeah.
Now, I know that the Olympics is happening. I got the little Olympics theme here, Go USA, right? Wonderful Winter Olympics going on in Korea right now.
Yeah.
And you mentioned in one of your speeches, you had an audience in Korea and there was a situation.
Yes.
Go ahead and share with the audience what had
Yes,
happened,
yes.
if you will.
Actually, this is something very important that we learn in Toastmasters. We learn to know your audience so you can target your message. One of the seminars I did there was on the emerging telecommunications markets. This was back in 1989, and the telecommunications industry was just booming, both in terms of fiber optics network rollouts and the wireless communications. So I did this seminar as part of a high-tech electronics show there in Seoul. There were probably 300 people in the audience in this auditorium, and the host introduced me in Korean, but he assured me these engineers all understood English. So I normally get to know my audience beforehand. I know who I'm talking to, and it was important in this case because we made equipment that could be used by the manufacturers of equipment, like Ericsson and Nokia and those kind of people. And then the other people who used our equipment were the operators, the network operators, Sprint, AT&T, Nokia, T-Mobile, and so on. So I wanted to slant my presentation depending on the audience, and sometimes if it's mixed, I had to overlap.
Right.
So I started off after being introduced by show of hands, who works for the equipment manufacturers, Samsung and LG and all these people.
Right.
Nobody moved a muscle.
Okay.
I said, so does that mean you all work for the network operators? Nobody moved a muscle. And so I'm panicking at this point, thinking, oh my gosh, they don't understand a word I'm saying. That's what I first thought.
Right.
And then out loud, I said, how many of you would rather be somewhere else right now? Because I would. And about a quarter of the audience laughed. And so that was
Great.
the cue to me that they understood me.
Right.
So I took a deep breath, calmed down, and went on with my presentation, which lasted for several hours. Nobody raised a hand or asked a question, and I kept asking if people had any questions, but nobody moved a muscle. At the end, they all came up and lined up there at the front of the auditorium,
Okay.
all the way around the auditorium, and I was there for a couple of hours answering one-on-one questions.
One-on-one questions.
One-on-one.
I'm curious because your
Yeah.
speech probably covered a lot of grounds.
Yes.
What kind of questions would someone ask you
Well,
after such a length of presentation, if you will?
This was when the technology was first emerging.
Okay,
And so
okay.
my presentation wasn't a sales pitch per se about the equipment we sold. It was more about some of the nuances of testing and rolling out your network and the things that you needed to do. So they had lots of questions that I didn't cover in my presentation,
Right.
or they wanted clarification.
I see.
And what I learned later, back to knowing your audience, is that this was a cultural thing. They didn't raise their hand at the beginning when I asked questions because culturally they didn't want to draw attention to themselves individually.
Right.
And even more importantly, what I didn't realize was that as the presenter, the teacher, the professor, they didn't want to maybe embarrass me or put me on the spot by asking a question I wouldn't know.
So it was a cultural thing.
It was a
as well.
cultural thing. I had no idea. This was my very first trip there, very first trip
Right.
internationally.
Have you been back
period.
since? Have you been
Oh
back?
yeah. I went there
Okay.
multiple times every year for about 10 years.
Oh, excellent.
And that job was fantastic.
Great.
I supported our company, and I made it to 6 of the 7 continents in the world.
Woo, one more. What's the last one?
Antarctica.
Okay.
Antarctica,
Let's
the
get
only
you
one
there.
left. You got to get there.
Yeah, gotta get there. You got time.
Yes.
Something I wanted to bring back is towards Babble-On.
Yeah.
I know the formation had an intention perhaps with a certain audience.
Yes.
What's the picture of it now to this day for those viewers that haven't been to the club?
Okay.
And as president, your president, what's your vision to help bring about the rest of the year? I'm just curious to learn.
Yes, and by the way, I haven't been president for life. I was president when we started,
This
but
year, okay.
I was just elected for this year again
Right,
as
right.
president. And it's been a fabulous club. Initially, we did start there at the Metropolitan Community Church. We started with 19 LGB members, and
Wow,
then
okay.
the 20th member that you need to start a club happened to be a straight man who wore a dress and went by Cheryl.
Whoa, wait.
Yeah, that-
Straight man in the dress. That's,
yeah,
that's
he made up the
fascinating.
T part of our LGBT community there. So,
Okay.
so that was the initial club.
T.
Over time, people move away, get promoted,
Right.
whatever. They come and go, and we've had a lot of straight members join the club. I honestly couldn't tell you what percentage of our members now are gay or straight because we don't ask. You know,
But-
we don't care.
We don't ask, we don't care, but I was speaking to you briefly earlier that if I were to go to the mall, walk around, there is a secret to learn who likes who more than others. And it's a body language thing, cultural maybe,
Yes,
right? As we were speaking
yes,
about.
yes.
What's that secret for those out there?
Okay, what's the
my
secret?
gaydar? How do I have a new gaydar
Yes.
perspective, if
Well-
you will, according to a man that's been in the LGBT community for a decade or 2 decades or 3,
Well,
I think, right?
since 81. I came out in 1981. So how many ever years that is, we can do the math. But
Yeah.
I did not know, people talked about gaydar, and I had no idea what they were talking about. And then after some years, I finally figured it out, is instead of looking at a person and just trying to tell if they're gay, what you do is you look at them, you watch them and see who they're watching.
I see.
For example, you're walking along the mall and you see somebody coming toward you, and you wonder, and all of a sudden some hot guy goes by and that person goes, okay, he's gay. Or if a nice looking lady goes by and he, okay, he's straight. So that's a kind of little inside secret there on how you can tell.
Interesting.
And not always though, because
Right.
mm,
Well, no, thanks for sharing that nugget with me. I figured there's some body language there, and there's patterns and habits. Humans give a foretell of what's a person's preference, if you will, or likes or passions. As far as Babble-On here, they meet 4 o'clock to 5:30 on Sundays.
right.
What's the vision that you see happening for the remaining with the new pathway technology advancement? I know you're fairly versed at learning rapidly with your background in technology. How do you see that assimilating and helping the group, if you will?
Okay,
Share.
that's a very good question. Toastmasters in general, I think, has a problem with getting younger people in. as members, because it was an old program, and the manuals that we used were updated occasionally, but basically they were from the 1940s, the original program. The new program you mentioned, Pathways, is computer-based, so that should appeal much more to the younger audience, the millennials and even younger, the people who want to access things on their phones and tablets and whatever. The advantage of Pathways is that they can have a lot more material. Instead of a handful of printed manuals, they have 10 different paths. Each path has a wide variety of projects to complete. It's probably going to take a person a good year to get through a path. It's quite a lot of work, and it takes advantage of the medium. It has video clips that model good behavior and things that people shouldn't do or should avoid when they're speaking. So it can do things that you can't do in a printed paper manual.
Absolutely.
I have been what's called a Pathways guide. I was recruited to help roll the program out in our district, so I visited my clubs and made presentations on Pathways, and people are starting to get involved in it now. We are running both programs in parallel for the next couple years, as people are finishing the program in the printed manuals if they want to do that, or they can just switch over right now, go into Pathways, or they can work both in parallel, which is kind of what I'm doing. I still have some manuals I want to complete speeches, but I'm in Pathways already.
And PJ, as I go around different Toastmaster clubs, your name rings a bell to a lot of people. You seem to be a master recruiter. Where can people go to learn more about Babble-On and such, and potentially participate?
Okay, Babble-On is hyphenated. It's BABBLE-ON. If you go to BabbleOnTM.org, that is our club's website, and that will give you all the details about when and where we meet on Sunday afternoons. As far as people knowing my name, one of the things I do outside of my club is I volunteer to manage the registration database when we have our semi-annual conferences. So I print up the badges and sit there at the door when people come into the conferences and give them their badges. So a lot of people know who I am just from that. I've also been active in leadership, area and division, and even at the district level, I was Lieutenant Governor of Marketing way back in 2008 and 9.
Great.
So I've been volunteering and helping out.
Well, thank you so much, PJ, for your leadership and devotion to Toastmasters.org and the many clubs and participant activities, I should say, that's been happening. My name is Surasai, that's my middle name. My new name, my legal name, is Style Versatile, and I thank you for your attention. And if you'd like to come out to a club, feel free to check out Toastmasters.org. As you can see, I'm working on my speech as well, and we look forward to sharing the joy of Toastmasters. Take care for now.
I joined Toastmasters to improve my speaking, listening, communication, and leadership skills.
Toastmasters gave me
incredible confidence.
Confidence.
confidence,
great listening skills,
Poise.
Great leadership skills.
leadership skills,
The ability to speak in public.
strength,
a captive audience,
Quality feedback from the more experienced Toastmasters.
Toastmasters really helped me improve my listening skills.
sales skills,
opportunities to go to different groups and widen my whole horizon.
Toastmasters has given me a better, a more focused me, and I'm a much better listener. Toastmasters is fulfilling.
It's a great place to fail your way to success.
Wonderful way to meet people.
Networking.
strength.
It's addictive.
It's a club of self-improvement.
It's an experience, it's a ride that you won't forget, and you'll enjoy it every step of the way.
Toastmasters helped me land a kick-butt job.
I sang at one of my table topic speeches, and people liked it and applauded.
My business is doing great, and I'm very, very grateful to Toastmasters.
It's been a great experience for me.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for giving me so much confidence.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for everything.
Hello, welcome to TV Toastmasters. My name is Style Versatile, and I'm a CC, which means I'm a competent communicator, and I'll be hosting today's show. Today, I have a special guest. Not only he's a real, genuine man, he's become a friend of mine. I'll like to share with you a little bit on his website of what I've come across. A testament of possibilities of transformation transformation in those who desire change. As a child, Ray Fox entered the foster care system and soon after the juvenile detention system at age 18. He entered prison to serve a life sentence. During the decades he spent behind bars, not the drinking bars, jail bars, Ray seized every opportunity to better himself. He participated in Toastmasters International, refurnished antique furniture, mentored at-risk youth, worked and completed every self-help program available to him. This change was obvious and led to the release in 2015. Ray, welcome to TV Toastmasters.
Pleasure to be here, sir.
Fascinating. I'm 37 years old, and pretty much to wrap up your sentence time, that's the time you put in.
Yes.
In there. Share with the audience, if you will, what brought about that timeline for you, would you say?
Well, I grew up in hell. My dad beat me for 13 years. He passed away this last summer, and I was at peace with that. I went to his funeral and prayed for him. But when you grow up with that type of background, you develop a big, huge ball of anger in your heart. And I had to get somewhere where I could learn how to deal with that anger. And it took that life sentence for me to be stopped, to learn how to deal with that and fix what was wrong.
Right. Now, in the bars, as they say, as I read, what pivotal opportunity or self-help program allowed you to discover your anger, have more awareness, and perhaps overcome such?
Well, the first thing that brought the awareness to me was working with the Lifers speaking panel, working with the at-risk youth, and eventually getting into the church, getting into Pathfinders, and then topping it off, the icing on the whole cake was getting into Toastmasters, because I'd gotten in touch with a lot of stuff and learned how to fix that, but I still didn't know how to communicate. And Toastmasters opened the door of communication and leadership, which is what they pride themselves on. But for some people like me, it gives you a boatload of confidence. No matter where I go, I will be a success. No matter where I go for a job interview, that job's mine. They just don't realize it yet.
I get this energy from you, Ray, that you have already an essence of belief about you and confidence. Do you see that play a part of your ambition of going after it, if you will? How much of that did you see you possess already? And I guess what about speaking in Toastmasters allowed you to be more impeccable with it, I would say?
Well, Toastmasters taught me how to communicate from my heart. Before I joined Toastmasters, the pro board wasn't letting me out of prison because I couldn't really explain what was going on in my heart. Then Toastmasters gave me the tools to open that communication, to be able to voice to the pro board and others what was going on within me. I had fixed the problem within, but I hadn't been able to communicate that to anybody.
I see. Now, when you mentioned church briefly, there was, I think, a pastor that would visit you.
Yeah.
And you had transition to help launching a church here in the Northwest.
When I ended up to the release facility, I joined a program called Alpha. And I just got in touch with the guy that leads the whole Alpha in Prison program. But there was a pastor that came into Columbia River. His name was Pastor Seth Brooks. And I started attending the church out in C3 Portland out in Lake Oswego. And then Pastor Seth branched off on his own, and we just launched October 1st this new church that we was originally calling C3 Rip City, but now, because we're all Blazer fans, diehard Blazer fans, but now we're calling it C3 Northeast PDX because it's located out on Portland Road, which is just at the end of Lombard. And I'm the minister of hospitality, I'm the usher, I'm the greeter, and it gives me the position where I'm the face of the church, where I can greet people and welcome them.
Great, yeah.
And I like that. And Seth Brooks had a lot to do with that.
I took notes. It helps stabilize. It's changes possible. Environment plays a role in your well-being, I imagine.
Yeah, last year, a friend of mine we used to call him SV. and now he goes by Style Versatile.
Okay.
He did a photo for my birthday, and the saying that he put on that photo was, "Be the change you wish to see in the world."
Right.
And that was perfect, because that's what my life is all about. I want to be the change. I want to see those around me become the change also.
Right. Mahatma Gandhi. Another way that Bruce Lee put it, knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do. Right. Another way to put it, be the change you wish to see in the world. That's great, and I see your growth and your aspirations, Ray, and I'm looking forward to seeing the development of where you go. Where can people go find more information about you, Ray?
You can find me on my website. My friend is Style Versatile. Well, he was SV at the time. He put a website together. You can reach me at rayallenfox.com. And all my contact information is on there. There's a radio broadcast show I did a couple years ago through KBOO called On the Prison Pipeline Program. And the whole idea for me is I want to go talk to them kids that nobody else can reach. I can reach those kids.
Right.
While I was in prison, everybody couldn't get enough kids in there for me to talk to. But now that I'm out, I'm an ex-con.
They can't get away from
They can't talk to me now because I'm an ex-con. And it's like, wait a minute. I got the answers for these kids. I've been there. I've walked in the shoes that they're looking at. Let me be the change in their life. Let me reach out the olive branch and help these kids transform themselves into better people.
Well, excellent. Ray, it's been a pleasure to get to know you, and I look forward to growing with you and throughout the chapters ahead. My name is Style Versatile. I'm here with Ray Fox today. If you'd like to learn more about Toastmasters, feel free to go to Toastmasters.org and go to an event near your city, your schedule that works for you. And we look forward to seeing you become the leader you wish to be. That's it for now, and that's our time. Take care, take charge.
I remember the first speech I ever gave at Toastmasters. Afterwards, I sat down and I really didn't know how well I'd done. It was a pretty nervous experience for me. I mean, did I remember my gestures? Did I speak clearly? Did I make good eye contact? Well, questions were answered when another member of the club gave me my first evaluation.
This was great. Can I come back next week? As we work to create and strengthen this global vision, this universal partnership, we may experience some challenges along the way. Growing pains, if you will. Struggles. Should we let this stop us? Do we give up when things get tough? To overcome the challenges we face, we need to focus on one thing. I had a great time at my first Toastmasters meeting. I had no idea it would actually be fun. I had some bad experiences in the past delivering speeches. Sometimes I just didn't practice, and others I would just get so nervous in front of the crowd. Now, the truth is, we are stronger when we work together. This is going to be our path to success and is what will drive us to the next level. When that happens, we will have reached our goals.
What a great speaker. My presentation last time was awful. What do you think?
Well, have you ever heard of Toastmasters?
Toastmasters is really the best kept secret for self-development.
If I were to say one thing about Toastmasters, it would have to be personal growth.
I've gained so much self-confidence and belief in myself after being a part of Toastmasters.
As we all know, great leaders have excellent communication skills. I feel that I have the confidence now to become a great speaker.
I always admire people that could stand up and talk about any topic.
Even on the spot. Well, now I'm one of those people who can do it comfortably.
The progress I have seen in myself has even been noticed by my friends and my coworkers.
But the best part was when my manager saw how much improvement I had made, and he gave me the job I had been wanting for 2 years.
All I have to say is thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.